Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 82 of the Rock and Roll Beer Guy podcast. Don't forget to check out the Patreon page. Go to patreon.com/rockandrollbeerguy, and you can check out a slew of exclusive content, including all the interviews from Psycho Las Vegas with bands like CKY, Andrew WK, Lucifer, Coven, and many more. Show your support and be part of the community. Get access to exclusive merch, and be the first to see the Rock and Roll Beer Guy TV show once it launches. In this episode, I talked to Robin Staps of the band The Ocean. I had a really great conversation with him. We discussed their newest album, Phanerozoic I, Palaeozoic. It is part one of two, part two being released in 2020. We talk a little bit about that. We talk about touring. We talk about the band itself and how it has a collective mentality with musicians, but has finally established itself with a solid lineup. We talk a little bit about his influences. And we talk a little bit about beer. Don't forget to check out their new album. I've been obsessing over it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Cheers. Welcome, everyone, to the Rock and Roll Beer Guy podcast. I'm here with Robin of the band The Ocean. Is it just The Ocean or The Ocean Collective?
As you wish. Both is legit.
Very cool. Very cool. You guys just recently put out a new record.
That's right.
It's called, let me see if I get this right, Phanerozoic I?
Mm-hmm.
I said it right. All right, cool. And then also Palaeozoic.
That's right. That's the first part.
Yes. So it's a two-parter. It's part one came out November 2nd. The second part will be coming out in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. So tell me a little bit about it. What's going on with... I read a little bit about the Phanerozoic era and how it's kind of like a culmination of everything in between the final mass extinction and now. Am I right?
Well, it's basically the eon in Earth's history that followed after the Precambrian and still carries on until the present tense. So we actually live at the probably the end of the Phanerozoic. Someone has to define at one point when it's over, but yeah, we're living in it, and it's a time span of 500 million years, basically. And there have been a whole bunch of mass extinction events, 5 or 6 in total during the Phanerozoic so far, when life almost disappeared from Earth, but not quite entirely. And even if it did, it resurged in other places, other forms. So this is like part of the part of the topic of this record. It's those mass extinction events during the Phanerozoic, but it's also it's a broader perspective on time. It's a very long time span, obviously 500 million years on the relativity of time and our personal perception of it and how subjective it all is. So the lyrics obviously don't talk about like mass extinction events solely. It's more of a personal approach, and it's all related to the red thread, which is the concept of time, basically.
Wow, very interesting. And in your previous records before, like Pelagial and Anthropocentric, I don't even know if I'm saying that right either.
Mm-hmm. You're doing well.
Anthropocentric. So, what's up with the theme? It's very, are you a geologist or do you study like paleontology, anything like that? Like, what is it that brings you into that, the realm of topic?
I actually am. I have a master in geography, so I have been exposed to these topics throughout my studies, basically, and I just find Earth's history genuinely very interesting, and somehow it kind of resonates well with the music that we do. I think the way I initially came up with this whole stuff, which started with our Precambrian album that was released in 2007, Precambrian is another eon in Earth's history, basically, was by trying to visualize our music, and it just has this very archaic, prehistoric kind of vibe and drive. And so when I was closing my eyes listening to the material that we were putting out as a band, I always ended up thinking of streams of lava and these epic prehistoric landscapes. Somehow it's a bit of a cliche, but it's just very fitting and appropriate in a way. So I think that's how we initially ended up there.
Interesting. It's so cool how the name of the band is The Ocean, but mostly all the names and everything that lyrically and everything is about the Earth. But the Earth is mostly water too. So
that's right.
It's very cool. And the reason I brought up early the Ocean Collective, I mean, you're basically the sole writer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, more or less. I mean, we're looking back at a discography of 8 records now, and I have written most of the material on all of these records. I'm also the only band member that's still left from the original lineup. The band has been around since 2001, so for quite a long time already now. With the latest record, it's still mainly my songs, but we have worked on them in the rehearsal room and properly actually rehearsed for the first time, I think, in the history of the band before making a record. The previous record, Palaeozoic, was really like a studio project that was recorded before we started even thinking about how to do that live. And this new record is different from that in a way that I still wrote the basic tracks, but then we really developed them together in the rehearsal space and fine-tuned, all the details. And we were actually like making those tracks come to life in the rehearsal room before we entered the studio. So that's kind of new. And all the other players in the band, they definitely, had more of a chance to, put their signature on the record, so to speak, on their respective instruments. But when I write music, I mostly program the drums. I'm not a drummer. I'm a guitar player. But this time, Paul interpreted what I came up with a lot more freely and really, interpreted my ideas in his own way. And so it's a lot more personal from the perspective of the other guys as well, I think, this record, as compared to our previous records. It's more of a collaborative effort, so to speak.
That's great. And you can really tell when you listen to the music. I mean, not to say that the previous records didn't feel complete, but it just feels like this is a whole band.
Yeah,
as opposed to a project,
Yeah.
And it's kind of been a revolving door for you with band members since the beginning. Do you feel comfortable now that you guys work together in the studio like that, and you felt the vibe? Is this lineup going to stick around, or is that part of the whole point of the collective, where you're maybe the next one you guys switch it up just to bring some new blood in?
Well, it's been like that for a long time, but I do want to get away from that, because I just noticed that, you spend a lot more time actually rehearsing with people than you really need to when you have constantly changing members. In the beginning, I thought that was cool because it was bringing in, new creativity, and just like it was inspiring to always have different people around somehow. And initially, in the very beginning, it was just really hard for us to keep musicians in the band, because we needed good musicians, but those were mostly already taken by bands that actually had something to offer when we were still just a shitty band with a rehearsal space and no record deal and no tours or anything like that. So it was really difficult to attach the kind of like good players to this band. Obviously, that's more easy now when we have a record deal, 8 records out, and international tours. And so there's no need anymore to constantly keep looking for new people. I think we've also all grown up, and we've gone through our quarrels with each other quite a lot. But now this lineup is a group of really good friends, and that's what we've become in the last couple of years. I mean, Loic, the vocalist, he's been in the band since 2009. He's the second oldest band member apart from myself. And Paul and Matthias have been in the band since 2014, so almost 5 years now too. And it just feels like we're at a very comfortable place now. We really just genuinely like each other. We like to hang out. We like to do stuff, and not just for the purpose of being in the band. And that's a really cool, thriving ground for being creative and doing this together. And so I think this lineup is definitely more stable than any previous lineup we have had. But that said, I also am aware that priorities change in life. You know, people want to have career jobs or want to start families, and then touring doesn't really fit into that life model anymore. And I have seen that too many times before in order to succumb to the illusion of, you know, having one fixed lineup now until the end of time. It's probably not going to happen. So it's always like it's always like an alliance of a couple of people that want the same thing at the same time, and it's bound to last only for a while. You know, then something changes, some parameters change, and people go different ways. And I think that's just normal. That's in the nature of it, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, if there is changes in the future, it wouldn't surprise anyone just because of the way it's worked out so far, and because you kind of started calling it the collective as opposed to just the ocean.
Right.
It would make sense. But you know, I'm happy that you have found a group of guys that you feel comfortable with. Your friends. You know, that there's nothing like that. There's nothing like the connection that you get between a few people that get along and start being creative. There's no other feeling in the world, really.
Totally, yeah. And it's just really important. You know, we're all at the end of our 30s now, and we do this because we love doing it and not because we will ever get rich with it, you know. And then it's quite important to actually be around people that you like and that you enjoy spending your time with, you know. And that's the greatest thing in the world. It's like being on a high school trip with friends, you know. And that's what touring essentially is, apart from being on stage, which is like 1 hour of the day. The remaining 23 hours you're hanging out with this group of people, and you get to know each other very well, sometimes almost too well, and you better choose the right people to make this worthwhile, you know. And that has become very important to us, to the feeling that we're not doing this you know, solely because of all the musical stuff, but also because we actually we like to hang out with each other and have a good time.
For sure, man. I wanted to talk to you about the tour, but I wanted to bring it back real quick. You mentioned that, you know, you're not doing the band to make a lot of money or to be, you know, like on television. And it really is a fascinating thing to me that I've been obsessing over Cambrian 2, The Eternal Recurrence.
Yeah.
The music video is insanely beautiful, like lots of artistic aspects to it, very trippy. And the song itself is incredible. And it's like, it blows my mind that something so beautiful and so creative you'll never find it on like MTV or anything like that. You know, it's not something for the general masses. It's something for people that can appreciate art, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's you know, that's true for everything that is not mainstream art or mainstream media. I'm already actually quite surprised by how many views we already have on that clip. So I think we do actually have means to reach a relatively large audience now on a very grassroots level through the internet, through YouTube, and, you know, other platforms. But obviously, it's not the same as mainstream TV or radio or anything like that, and it will never be. It's always niche art, you know, and it only interests a fraction of people. And even if you find that clip beautiful, which I agree, it came out really, really amazing, it's still quite harsh, aggressive music that will just, you know, turn off a lot of people that would come across it in the first place. So yeah, it's that's what we do, you know. It's extreme art in a way, and it doesn't feel to us like that anymore because we're so used to it. We grew up in the metal or hardcore scene, you know, and we've been exposed to it. Our listening habits have evolved in a certain way, but for the majority of people out there, they will be like, what the actual fuck is this, you know? So
yeah, and I'm having a problem. Yeah. I'm having kind of a problem with it too, because it's like I guess my taste in music is getting a little more extreme as well. I've been getting into a lot more deeper into the catalogs of people, and the other day I was showing my girlfriend the Cambrian 2, and I was like, "Oh, check it out! I think you'll like it. It's a little more melodic, a little easier to listen to." And as I start playing it, she's like, "This is really heavy."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, I guess to me it's different, you know, because I'm just so."
Because it's like one of our more melodic tracks, you know. It has this like there's clean vocals over the chorus, and then this end section, this almost like choir style end section. It's very, like, for our standards, it's very catchy, but still in your face screams, you know.
It's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty heavy. So is this your first album on Metal Blade?
Nope, we have been signed to Metal Blade since 2006, actually, and this is
Oh, okay.
We've released Aeolian, Precambrian, heliocentric, anthropocentric, and pelagial on Metal Blade, so this is number 6.
Wow. Okay. Well, they do a good job of pushing you guys. Like I said, I've seen it. I've seen the video pop up, and I follow you guys, but also I've just seen it everywhere. Most of my friends are, pretty pumped on it. Going back to the tour, I was going to ask you. You guys were on tour for like 5 years off of Pelagio.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Why such a long tour cycle? That's like the longest tour cycle I've heard.
Well, it's not exactly been 5 years of nonstop touring. The record came out in 2013, and we've been on the road for most of 2013, 2014, and 2015. So like 3 years. The past 2 years, we haven't really been touring much. We did a South America run and a second Australian tour, actually. But last year we did almost nothing. Everyone kind of wanted to take a bit of a break from this band and music in general and focus on other things. Our vocalist started growing weed, which became legal in Switzerland, where he lives. So
nice.
He got into farming. I started a bar in Berlin, and we all went our different ways, and we just had to do something else for a while. I think that was the general consensus. And then, after a year or so of not doing much with the ocean, we all came back to the conclusion that it's really about time now to make another record. We were just all really keen, and I think it all really helped us to take some distance and take a step back and face the question, do we still want to do this? And if so, then how intensely? And I think we all came more or less to the same conclusion that, yes, we do. We love doing this, and we want to make a new record. We want to go out to tour again. But we had kind of reached this point with Pelagial where we played like over 350 shows or so on the record. And it was a concept album. There was this journey from the surface of the sea to the bottom of the deep sea or whatever. So we always played the same songs in the same order because that's how the record was kind of like conceptualized, and that's how it made sense. So we spent we spent 3 years playing the same songs in the same order. It was just getting to this point where it was becoming a bit of a routine, and that's something we all dislike quite strongly, and because we do this for the passion of it, and we didn't want it to become just a job. So I think that's why we all decided that we have to have this year off, and that was very invigorating and very healthy. And now we're back, super motivated and hyped to go out and play these new tracks, and we've been doing that now for 10 nights on this tour. Actually, we're in the middle of it. I'm in Bratislava in Slovakia right now, and it's just great to play new material every night, and it feels like almost like a new band. It's really good.
That's awesome. I 3 years is a very long time. There's a lot of similarities between you guys and my good friends in Intronaut. They toured forever on their last album too, and
true. Yeah.
It's you guys are friends, right? I believe.
Yeah.
I think you know those
guys for years. We've I think the first tour we did together was actually our Precambrian tour in 2007. That was their first European tour. We took them out over here, and then we did some West Coast shows in the States with them. And then we were supposed to do a tour with them 3 or 4 years ago, which we had to cancel on short notice because we didn't get our U.S. working visas in time, and it was a big disaster. But yeah, we go back long, and I love those guys dearly. I actually also released Sasha's new band, Futurosis, on my label records. So there's multiple
connections there.
Of connections, yeah.
That's great. Yeah, Futurosis is really good. It's an intense project too. Very spacey. I saw them open up. I forget who it was recently, but I mostly went for Sasha just to see Sasha and his new project.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great, really really unique sound somehow that they've created together. Instrumental, but very heavy, and there's elements of doom and post stuff in it, but it's really hard to pin down. I really like this record a lot.
For sure. How long have you had the label for yourself?
I started the label in 2009. Back then, basically just to re-release our Fluxion record, which was out of print on Metal Blade, and they didn't want to reprint it. And, so Andreas from the German office told me, why don't you go do it yourself? And then I started, setting up a distribution network and started releasing other bands as well. And I started to really enjoy it. And now we have a catalog of 125 releases, I think, which is far more than I had ever planned for or envisioned. But it's kind of like, as much of a full-time job as that, basically. And part of why the Ocean wasn't so active in the last year and a half was also because there was so much going on with Pelagic Records that I just had to prioritize things in order to do them right. And now I get to the point where it's a little bit difficult because, now we're touring with the Ocean, so there's less attention for the label. But at the same time, our team has really grown, and we're like 5 people working for the label now. So there's 3 people at home taking care of logistics and everything that needs immediate attention. While Paul, the Ocean's drummer, and me are at work. Paul also works for Pelagic. So.
Yeah, so I don't know how you have time to do. You run a label, and you're gonna tour with the band, and you said you opened a bar.
Yeah, well that project has already gone to shit again. That's just an experiment, basically. Yeah, the bar is no longer around now. There was just an idea I had with a friend of mine, but it wasn't really working out. Or it was mainly like him and me not working out. That's why we put the project to an end. But it was an interesting experiment. And I also noticed I have to set priorities, and the label is taking up so much of my time. And then the band with a new record now that it simply wouldn't have worked. For the next couple of years. So, I think the older I get, the more I learn that I have to stop loading too many things on my shoulders.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when we're in our early 30s, we get this rush of wanting to do everything possible.
Yeah.
Because that you start realizing, as we get older, like we're running out of time, so you want to do more things and you want to be active, but then you just spread yourself a little too thin,
Yeah, exactly. And I have a tendency to just take on too many projects. I really have to learn to say no to things, and this is kind of where I am right now, because I've done that mistake for years, that I've said yes to all the great, beautiful things in life, and then just ended up not being able to, do them the way or give them the amount of attention I really wanted to. And now, the band and the label are like my 2 main projects, really, and they more than keep me busy.
For sure, I can imagine. Do you expect to tour all the way through until 2020 for the new album?
Well, yes, we will be doing a lot of touring on this record. I will also spend some months in Berlin, and right now what we have planned is after this tour, we'll be home until the end of the year. Then we're going to India, Australia, New Zealand in January to escape from the European winter. And then probably to Japan for the first time in February, and then we're doing another European headliner run in March, April, and then a US tour hopefully in May, June. It's not really, there's no dates yet, but that's what we're looking at right now. So until like mid 2019 we'll definitely be out. Then I think I will be in Europe for the summer, because there's going to be a lot of festivals here, and I also have to do some things in Berlin, and then we may be going out again in the fall. So yes, there's a lot of touring coming up for sure.
That's fantastic, and I love that you guys get to play all over the world. I mean, not everybody gets that opportunity, so it's beautiful that you get to share the music in Japan. Like that's huge.
Yeah, it's a fucking privilege being in a band like this that allows you to travel and get your travels paid to play music and all over the place. It's just it's a beautiful thing, and I think we all became aware of that during the last couple of years, and that also helps when you have some personal difficulties, to make yourself aware of the fact that, hey, this is a fucking privilege what we're doing, let's not waste it. And we've toured a lot on the last record all over the place, and we also really like going to the smaller places. Like we played a tour of Russia with 24 shows, for example, including 4 shows in Siberia. That was some of the most intense gigs I've ever played. It was really, really amazing.
Wow.
And we've played in Ecuador and South America, had a beautiful time there. And those are sometimes the even more rewarding places than the big capital cities in Europe and the US, where obviously you have bigger crowds, but people are also Well, they get to see a lot, like when I go out in Berlin, there's like so many different gig offers like every single night of the week. And that just means that people are essentially a bit spoiled, because every tour comes through town basically. And that's different when you play in Ecuador or in Tomsk, Siberia. People are really fucking excited to see an international band. And that just creates a really, really cool vibe. And I've always loved going to these kind of like more remote places or off the beaten track places to try and play shows there. It's always been a challenge, but a very rewarding one.
For sure. I love the South American audience. They're so passionate.
Yeah.
Because, nobody really goes down there. And I always tell my friends in bands, you want to make it big, go to South America. Don't worry about making it big here in America. It's not, there's too many things going on. So
true. Yeah.
Go to South America. They'll love you.
Yeah.
So living in Germany, what kind of perspective do you see of what's going on over here in America, politically and kind of culturally?
Well, with immediate effect on musicians, I actually don't really know if it's still possible to get visas to even come over to the US to tour. I've heard it has become really, really difficult, and it's always been a pain in the ass in the past, where you have to fill out 60 pages online application documents and answer questions like if you have ever recruited child soldiers or been involved in coerced blood transfusions or stuff like that. I mean, that was already a couple of years ago. I don't know where it's at now. I imagine it hasn't gotten any easier. So yeah, we will see where that goes. But I don't know. I'm a European. I don't want to judge. I mean, everyone is obviously talking shit about the man in charge, and rightfully so. But it's a problem that America has to solve, and I'm sure you will work this out in the end. I think it's quite clear what the international perception of this man has been from the very beginning, and it's the weird thing is that I don't have a single American friend that supports this current administration, but they must have been elected somehow, and we played a show in San Diego on election day. I remember it in 2016 after our South American tour. It was the saddest night I've ever played. Like, people were staring at their phones, shaking their heads, and it was just really, really sad night. And it was so unreal because, like I said, all our we have a lot of American friends. We've toured there 6 times, and I don't know a single person that was like, yes, we need this. This is the right direction for our country to come. Everyone was just bowing their heads in shame and saying how the fuck did this actually happen? So it intrigues me because there is this part of America that I have no access to because I don't have friends in these circles. But this is the part that voted for this guy, and it's not a. It must be a significant part of the population somehow, because it actually happened. So that's what strikes me as a bit hard to imagine sometimes when I expose myself to my own social circles in the States.
For sure. I mean, almost everything right now in my life, it just feels like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily always a terrible thing. It's been actually, a lot of the positives in my life are kind of unbelievable to me. But I try to explain it to everyone that there is a lot more people on this in this country than they think. Yeah. And the majority of the people that are voicing their distaste or desire to voice their what's the word I'm looking for? The lack of support for the president. Mm. They're so busy on social media and trying to do other things that they're not. A lot of people aren't voting.
Yeah.
And the people that are voting are the people that are living in farms that are they have nothing better to do but to go vote.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. And the states that we see as a touring band is basically the coasts. It's like the East Coast and the West Coast, and well, then everything in between we're usually crossing through relatively quickly, playing a few gigs on the way. But this is the part where you don't play many shows, where you don't get to meet many people, but those are the people that actually do go vote.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I hate that I have to use this like analogy, but I was telling someone the other day, it's kind of like the Nickelback effect, where everybody talks shit. They're like, yeah, that band sucks, man, but they're still selling millions of records.
Yeah,
somehow.
yeah, exactly. To someone, yeah, someone's got to be there buying them. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I try to keep myself away from it as much as I can. Talking about politics and everything, or religion for that matter.
Yeah.
But it's such an important thing, because especially me, I'm a child of immigrants.
Yeah.
So I kind of have to keep an eye on the whole thing, just in case, like, I wake up tomorrow, it's like, oh, all children of immigrants no longer citizens, and like now I lost my citizenship.
Yeah, right.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
So it's terrifying. I've always wanted to just move to Europe. A lot of my family's from Spain.
Oh yeah.
And I actually have family members, cousins that live in Berlin.
All right.
Now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been dying to go over there, see if I can get dual citizenship somehow.
Here's your chance. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the time, I think, right?
Yeah. Probably. Yeah.
So if you could book yourself a fantasy tour, what would the bands be like? What are the bands you would choose?
Well, it's a difficult question to answer because obviously it would make most sense to book bands that have a huge draw, but those are not necessarily the bands that I would personally most enjoy watching and listening to. So it's a bit.
I would rather go for what you want. What would make you happy, not money.
Okay. I'm very much listening to a quite unknown Swedish band right now called Scraps of Tape. They're really, really good, and me and my girlfriend have been spinning their last two records up and down. So this is something I would very much enjoy watching every night now if I had the chance to, but there's not going to be a whole lot of people coming out to those gigs. I would love to tour with an Australian band called Carnival. I think they're brilliant.
I know them, yeah.
Very, very good band. And I still want that Meshuggah tour to happen that we've been chasing for years because, they have been one of my most important kind of like progressive metal bands, so to speak. So that would be very cool. But I mean, personally, I listen to very, very different stuff, but most of it wouldn't really work with the ocean. I mean, I would love to go out with a band like Wovenhand, for example, but I don't see that happening or making sense, probably. So it's difficult to find something that matches with what we do somehow, because most of the music we actually listen to is quite different from where people see us in the scene or whatever.
Well, I mean, there's definitely room for that. There's a festival out here called Psycho that happens in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And they're a pretty eclectic selection of different genres of music, and everybody seems to be happy to be there.
That's great. That's definitely a festival that's really on my bucket list to see and do. It's I was actually planning on coming over for next year's edition, but it's the same weekend as a German festival called Summer Breeze, for which we already have an offer here for the ocean, so it's probably not going to happen next year, but it's definitely one of those US events I really, really want to check out.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how it works out this next year, because they are changing the venue. It was at the Hard Rock, and the Hard Rock just kind of fit the vibe of, hard rock.
Yeah.
So they're moving it, I believe, to the Mandalay Bay or something like that. So I'm curious to see where it goes, how it feels after, because it was really a unique experience. Like I said, there's bands like Tenari Wen, and you had all kinds like Godflesh, and then you also had Danzig, and it was a lot of stoner doom bands that I like. So it was a very, very good mix. What I'm trying to say is that necessarily you don't have to cater or book bands with you that sound like you or in the same world.
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, that always works when you take out something that is quite significantly different from what you do. But this is also all within limits, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we're out now with Rosetta and a Norwegian band called RRBG. They're both in Pelagic as well, and there's a lot of common ground between the ocean and Rosetta. I think, like, we share a lot of listeners. Arabrot are the disturbing band on the bill, so to speak. They're really, it's more noise rock. It's really challenging live, but they're super heavy at the same time, and they just have a really interesting stage appearance. Also, the way they act on stage, the way they look, and what they do, and yeah, I found it interesting to watch on this tour because they draw totally different people than what we would attract, and still somehow it was kind of like working out together in a very interesting way. And I like that type of friction. When I go to a gig myself, I don't want to see the same band 4 times. You want to be challenged. You want to see something different, especially with if it's like more than 3 or 4 bands on the bill. But on the other hand, it's also that usually those tour packages sell best where it's bands that are somehow related, and then you have this effect that people think, oh, I like more than just one band on that bill. I will travel for that. So it's sometimes difficult to make those really strange packages work just financially.
Right.
So it's always going to be a compromise somehow.
Yeah, for sure. Is there a venue that you've never played at that it's like on your bucket list?
A venue? I don't know,
for
man.
Example, the Red Rocks in Colorado is one that a lot of people say.
Yeah. That sounds like a really exciting place. Yeah, I will second that actually. Other than that, Troubadour in LA was always a place I've wanted to play, but I have. So that was cool. And in Europe, we've pretty much played pretty much everything up and down. There's still a lot of like really big venues that we haven't done, but I don't know. I'm not so interested in venues, more in places basically. And if it's a shitty venue but there's a great crowd and it's in a place where I've always wanted to go to, then it can still be a great night. Like some of those venues we've played in Russia, they were really not great, but we've had some of the best gigs of our lives there actually.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm curious with venues in Europe. Like I know my friends in Animals as Leaders did a show in I forget what country it was, but it was outside and it looked like it was inside of a castle or some kind of crazy Gothic church or something like that.
There's a lot of cool venues over here, but it's very different from country to country. Like in the UK, for example, you have a lot of beautiful old Victorian theaters that have been transformed into music venues, like Shepherd's Bush Empire in London, for example, with like 3 balconies, and it's just this epic Victorian theater setting. In Berlin, most of the venues are just shitty empty halls that they installed a stereo system in, and then in the Netherlands or in Benelux you have these state subsidized super fancy venues that were really built to be venues with like conceptualized by acoustic engineers, and everything is just in place for touring bands. They even have there's this one venue in Nijmegen where they have like this lift that turns a sleeper bus around in the venue, and it's just crazy. Like, yeah, it's because it can't exit on the other side or something. Like, it's really crazy stuff there. So it really depends where you go. In Eastern Europe, it's another different story. Sometimes you play in these old Soviet theaters, like in Ukraine, for example, and it's very interesting actually. Yeah, the diversity of that in Europe is quite larger than anywhere else, I think.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I definitely need to do more traveling. I've been to, like I said, I've been to Spain and Germany a couple times, but it's not enough. I want more. There's so much more to explore over there.
Yeah. That
you don't necessarily. There's beautiful things to see in America too, but it's just different. It feels like a whole other world when you look at the thousands of years old churches in Spain.
Yeah.
They're you go downstairs and there's just skeletons everywhere, and like that's not even conceivable here in America. Like you can't expect to walk into a church and see a bunch of bones,
Yeah. You got to travel to Czech Republic for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. But so living in Germany, you guys are, for me in my previous working for the beer industry, you guys are known for really good beer. Mm-hmm. So When you mentioned earlier that you were opening a bar, or that you opened a bar, was it more of a beer bar, or?
It was actually not a beer bar at all.
Okay.
It was like more like a daytime vegetarian cafe. In the evening, we're mainly serving long drinks and cocktails, and we didn't even have a tap or anything like that because there's already so many craft beer bars in Berlin, you know. So it was kind of pointless to start that in this particular part of town. So we had a different focus, so to speak, on really good mixed drinks, actually. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to stick out. You know, people would go out of their way to go to that because, like you said, there's so many beer bars.
Exactly.
That's just a little unique.
Yeah. And
are you a beer drinker at all, or do you prefer just the cocktails?
I am not a big beer drinker. I do like good beer, but it's not my favorite thing in the world.
Okay. So is there a specific like type of beer that you like most, like stouts or anything like that?
I'm really into pale ales lately, and I like a good blonde. I like a good Weizen beer, of course, being a proper German, you know. And recently I discovered a really amazing new beer. It's a red oat ale. It's almost reddish in color, and it's apparently made from oat, and it's really delicious. It's really good.
Nice.
Yeah, there's definitely good beer out there. Like, don't get me wrong, but I'm not drinking beer every day. I do like a good vodka and a good whiskey from time to time as well. And through the bar, I've gotten really into mixed drinks and stuff. So that has kind of like taken over now.
For sure. And I don't know if it's something to do with getting older as well, but like for me, I was in the beer industry for 7, almost 8 years. And, you know, now I'm way more interested in cocktails and good whiskeys, good bourbon, you know. It's very interesting that happens. I guess you just get beered out. That's what the word.
You just got to keep it interesting and, you know, try something else from time to time.
Sure. And then the last thing I wanted to ask you, because I don't get to talk to a lot of people from Berlin and Germany. So, what are your thoughts on Oktoberfest? That you know, so many people from around the world come to celebrate over there with you. Is it annoying?
To be honest, I've never really been myself. It's a Munich thing. We were in Munich last night, but it's 7 hours away from Berlin, so I'm always only there when we play a gig, and I've never been to Oktoberfest myself. I think they tried to come up with like a Berlin version of that, but it's really something extremely touristy, and I don't think a whole lot of Germans like to go there, really, at least the Berlin version. So yeah, I don't know. I can't really tell you. I've never been myself. It's a Bavarian traditional folk thing that somehow a lot of people associate with German culture. But yeah, I've never really been a big fan of that.
I picture it being annoying. It's kind of like
it's a whole bunch of drunk Bavarians, you know, drinking ridiculous amounts of beer. And listening to terrible music. You know, terrible German folk brass music, which is really disgusting. That's the thing, you know, I'm so envious of, like, for example, like Spanish folk music is beautiful, or Portuguese folk music, you know, it's sad, melancholic, and beautiful, and German folk music is just terrible. There is absolutely nothing likable in it. It's just, it's just really bad.
It's like just drunk and loud.
Yeah,
that's what it
drunk
sounds
and
like.
loud and obnoxious and stupid. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. It's funny. My grandfather's from Galicia in Spain, which is the Celtic region, and they have a specific, you know, style of singing that is very unique to them. The gypsy style. It's kind of like yodeling, but it's very painful. Like they sound like they're crying most of the time, which is super interesting to me.
Yeah. I've never heard of that. That sounds interesting. Yeah.
I would recommend, if you want to look at something unique, Paco de Lucia.
I know.
Guitarist.
Yeah, of course I know him. But that's flamenco. That's proper flamenco.
Yeah. He does flamenco on his own, but he does. He had a project with a guy named Camarón de la Isla. Cameron of the Island.
Yeah.
Camarón de la Isla. And he does that style of singing where he sounds like he's crying, basically.
Interesting. I got to check that out.
Yeah, Paco de Lucia and Camarón together. I think they did like a double album, and it was beautiful. But I recommend you check that out.
Cool. Yeah, I will.
And
Thanks.
My last thing, I just wanted to ask you if you had any hobbies that you do. Like, I know you don't have much time between the label and touring and music, but do you read? Do you play video games? Do you just strictly read, study more geology? Or?
Yeah, I certainly do not. No, I'm an avid scuba diver whenever I have the time. Which isn't that often, but like my last trip was to Sipadan in Borneo. Actually, try to combine it with touring as much as I can. We had an Australian tour and a gig in Singapore on the way, and so I came in like a week and a half earlier and went to Borneo. And that was like my last proper hobby vacation trip. Actually, it was 2 years ago. So I do that. And I'm lately getting quite a lot into the very bourgeois hobby of gardening. I just started growing my own veggies and stuff in Berlin, actually. And it's just a super fun thing to do when I can really switch off and not think about emails or like whatever I still have to do. It's kind of like a mediative type of thing to do somehow. I really enjoy that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about that more and more every day because you start thinking about the doom and gloom aspect of what's happening on our planet, and it's like maybe I should learn how to grow food in case something happens.
Yeah, there's something really rewarding in it, even though it's like it makes absolutely no sense from an economic perspective or like the investment of time. I can buy a zucchini for like $1 anywhere, but to grow your own and to keep watering them for weeks and then watch them grow and then cook a nice meal out of them. I'm really into cooking too, together with my girlfriend. Actually, we spend a lot of time preparing like really good food, actually. So that's that's just the next step. Like preparing food is one thing, but then actually growing your food and then preparing it is next level. And that's that's just awesome. We really love doing that.
That's awesome, man. That's good to hear. Well, Robin, thank you so much for your time today, talking with me.
Thank you.
You guys have, if whoever's listening, make sure to pick up the record. At least YouTube it and listen to the Cambrian 2 video, and you'll see. I mean, the whole album is fantastic. You guys have a track there with Devonian Nascent with Catatonia, which I was surprised to hear. I'm a big fan of Catatonia, so I was glad to hear you guys collaborated there.
Yeah, that came out really, really cool. I think there was actually an old idea we've had since 2007 to do something together with Jonas, and then we kind of forgot about it. And back then it didn't happen because we just ran out of time. And last year we played a one-off gig in Romania with Catatonia and kind of revisited that idea. And then, sent him a pre-production of one of the new tracks, and he was into it. And I'm very happy with how it came out. It sounds like Catatonia, of course. It's the voice of Catatonia, but it also still sounds like the ocean. And I think he's really made this song his own somehow.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. It was. I was really impressed. So thank you for that record. Like I said, anyone listening, make sure to pick up Phanerozoic I, Palaeozoic, and then keep an eye out for part 2. You said 2020. We should be expecting that. And then keep an eye on the social media. You'll see you guys are on tour pretty much everywhere for the next year or so. So
that's the plan.
Sure to catch them on the road. Yeah. Thanks again, brother. And hopefully I can catch you in June, you said? June, July in America. Hopefully I live out in LA, so maybe like a Los Angeles or surrounding area show would be cool to catch you guys.
I'm sure that'll happen. Cool, man. Thanks for your time.
All right. Thank you. Cheers.
All right. Bye.